technologies of care that you either practice for yourself or you practice for others?
I think sharing of knowledge and information is obviously why we're here at school, but also what I practice in my friend groups and try to extend outwards. I like to think about like open sources of information and passing along whatever you read that you think your friend that you haven't talked to in 5 years might find as interesting, and not pushing anyone too hard to educate themselves if they don't have the time, but just giving them an opportunity to do so, to spread knowledge so it's not just contained in the academy. And
How have you seen that play out, or how has that gone?
sometimes people are appreciative, and sometimes I feel like I'm being an elitist asshole by even sending somebody like a long article. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Totally.
not everyone has the time to read
Right.
articles. That's all I'm doing with my time is reading long articles.
Right.
So for me to be like, you might think this is so interesting, and then they're like, oh, she's like in school, she probably is like expecting me to read it and get back to her, and I'm like, no, I really don't care. It's really nice, but it'll be like a fun share.
Yeah. I think I try really hard just to geographically show up.
Showing up is a huge deal.
And to sit with the discomfort of that sometimes, where you're like, oh, I don't know all these people, or I don't really want to go to this thing and I'm tired, or I don't actually believe that we can create any of the change that we're hoping to by being here. But at some point, I think it's just about getting bodies in the space.
Yes.
And even if you don't really feel like it, attempting to show up to the sort of collaborative culture building that I nominally purport to believe in.
I think that's also so real in terms of like thinking about the act of showing up versus I feel like so much of the dialogue around self-care is like, I need to take care of myself and I'm not going to come. It's about that like alone time that you think that you deserve, and I think that's like fine in one case, but I also think it's used as an excuse to not put yourself in those uncomfortable positions or like push harder when you're tired or be there. And it's like the times where everyone can be there are usually the times where everyone's tired. That's just like the nature of people having schedules.
Absolutely.
And like the sort of self-importance that goes along with it, like being like, well, I need to like rest my body. And it's like, yes, sure, everyone does, but when you're calling that like your act of self-care at a certain point, I think it's like more of an excuse for you to be a non-participant and like an isolationist than it is like anything that's actually moving towards like a more cooperative, like healthy, helpful society. But I'm also like guilty of that totally. But I don't make an excuse to say self-care or just say I'm staying home and watching TV. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally